This is an NBC News special report. Here's Brian Williams.
Good day. We're coming on the air to report bedlam on Capitol Hill in Washington right now. You see it there after reports of shots fired. We have witnessed on incoming video feeds a lot of attention focused around one black Infiniti sedan, one scene in particular where we have seen a patient on a backboard treated and evacuated, taken out for treatment. But we do know several eyewitness reports say multiple shots were fired in the area around the U.S. Capitol. This seems to be located near the Hart Senate office building around 1st, 2nd Streets and Constitution. See a rare sight there. United States Park Police helicopter landing and taking off on the west front of the U.S. Capitol, something you do not see every day. Our Capitol Hill correspondent Kelly O'Donnell is on duty and in place. And Kelly, we should point out all of Capitol Hill has been locked down and told to shelter in place, correct?
That's right, Brian. We've been told to lock down, shelter in place, and I can tell you that at least a handful of United States senators report that they heard 3, 4, 5 popping sounds that appear to them to be possibly gunfire. U.S. Capitol Police spokesperson says that they have confirmed shots were fired, and there is a report of an injured United States Capitol Police officer, but no numbers on that confirmed, and no specifics about whether that injury relates to a gunshot wound or some other kind of injury. It has been chaotic here politically for days, now taking on a very different tone. Both chambers, the House and Senate, have closed down. Offices that were sparsely populated because of the shutdown have been told to lock down in place, and there's been enormous activity outside. U.S. Capitol Police have been on duty here without pay due to the shutdown, and they have been in a posture of watching for protests. There have been some in recent days that have been purely peaceful, typical U.S. kind of interaction here. And this came out of nowhere. On the side of the Senate, near office buildings, near what appears to be the Russell Senate office building, the Hart Senate office building. And again, we have reports of shots fired, no specifics yet on the degree of any injuries. And U.S. senators have been among those ear witnesses today. We know that in the early hours of any kind of circumstance like this, information can change. But we are getting reports, shots fired, injuries, but no details on those injuries yet. Brian?
Okay, Kelly, and as you were talking, we saw members of the D.C. Fire Department not firefighting, but treating what appeared to be a patient on a gurney there in the middle of the street. Pete Williams, our justice correspondent, has been on the phone gathering information on this. Pete, what can we report?
Well, Brian, what we're told by 2 federal law enforcement agencies is that this actually started at the White House, that whoever was in this car tried to breach security at the White House, then officers pursued the car on up to Capitol Hill. That would be, the White House is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and the Capitol is basically at the beginning, so it's 12, 14 blocks from the White House. This continues and then goes on to the other side of the Capitol where shots are exchanged. Now, it's still not clear to us who initiated the firing, who did the shooting. That is to be determined. Federal agents are still responding to the scene, trying to get their arms around it. The FBI is involved in the response, U.S. Capitol Police, Washington, D.C. Police, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and because of the fact that it started at the White House, the Secret Service. We don't believe that this is what you would call an active shooter situation. It seemed to be one encounter in which shots were fired, and that was that. So we believe that it's, for all intents and purposes, over, but we're waiting to get confirmed that they have this car, that they have the driver. We don't know that for a fact yet. That's the last bit of this that we're trying to get. But in any event, it was a long-running situation that started at the White House, we're told.
All right, Pete, the car that, as we mentioned, the vehicle that seems to be getting most of the attention and had someone alongside it that we saw transported for treatment was a black Infiniti sedan that is kind of straddling one of the cement islands near the 1st Street intersection. So We'll keep that in mind as we piece together various parts of this story. Over at the White House, correspondent Kristen Welker is standing by. And Kristen, was there ever a sense that there was activity over there, if indeed it started there and spread to the Capitol?
Well, we don't have any indication of that, but what I can tell you, Brian, is that Pennsylvania Avenue has been closed down. They have brought in extra security, park police here, trying to determine exactly what happened. The White House is not on lockdown as of right now. That means that pass holders can gain entrance. I can also tell you that top officials here are currently in meetings. Not clear if those meetings were called because of this incident, but they are aware of what has happened and they are clearly monitoring the situation. We've, of course, also tried to determine whether or not President Obama has been informed. No word yet about that, but we know that senior administration officials are aware of this situation. They are monitoring the situation, in contact with Secret Service. And again, Pennsylvania Avenue shut down right now outside of the White House as they try to get to the bottom of all of this. Brian.
All right. Kristen Welker over at the White House. As we look at this live picture, the vehicle in question, very tough to see. You see a fire truck on the left-hand side of your picture. It is just to the right of that.